everybody. Welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. I am your humble host, Ted Glover. Off to my right, I actually did it correctly this time. The one, the only, the founder, lead blogger, purveyor, and grand poobah of the SB Nation Minnesota Vikings website, the Daily Norseman, Chris Gates. And as always, directly below me, in my humble and funny co-host of Vikings Report with Drew and Ted, Mr. Drew Manchu, Drew Bunting in the background. She doesn't want to be on camera because she's too shy to take any credit. But Ruby, the talking cat, Toonces is in around here somewhere. Gentlemen, it's cut down day. The Minnesota Vikings have gotten down to their initial 53-man roster. Before we get into it, I just want a couple quick announcements. Just want to say, go sign on to get an account of Purple Pain Forums. They're our on website affiliate or internet affiliate for Vikings Report, Drew and Ted, and Vikings Report Rewind. Go to VikingsReport.com and check out the prize vault because you can win a prize tonight when we spin the Toonces Wheel of Destiny. To win a prize, all you got to do is make a comment in the live comment section. Just say, hey, how's it going? You're entered. At the end, Ruby's taking down all the names. She'll spin the wheel, and you'll get a prize. We have no studio show this week. We're only doing the live show this week. We will be back next week to preview week 1 as the Vikings kick off their season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the fighting Baker Mayfields and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We got a couple contests going on throughout the regular season. As always, we have Nobody Cares About Your Fantasy Team. And we also have our Rook Dog Challenge. We've got a couple other contests coming up. Go check out episode 103. We talk about all that there. I don't want to waste time here. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, cats and dogs, children of all ages, the Minnesota Vikings have a 53-man roster. Chris, what are your initial thoughts?
It's constructed in quite the interesting manner. I mean, we've got 6 safeties on the roster. I don't know how many we can play at one time, but we've got 6 of those. We've only got 2 healthy running backs at the moment, although I assume that's going to change here going forward shortly. But and 4 tight ends currently on the roster. So I don't know if the offense is going to shift to more 2 tight end sets again this year after a year going with a lot of 11 personnel. But yeah, it's an interesting roster to start things off with, even though there's going to be quite a few changes here over the next couple of days.
Mr. Drew Bunting.
Yes.
How do you feel about the initial roster?
But Chris summed it up pretty well, I think. I feel kind of the same way. Do I only see one, besides the 2 starting tackles, 1 tackle?
Yes.
That does not sit too well with me. I don't feel too good about that. But yeah. I love the safety group. They kept exactly the guys I wanted. I wanted a big safety group because there are going to be maybe 3 of them on the field a lot of times. But that's going to turn into a really good position. And I like the corner group that they shaved it down to. There's a couple questionable calls, but overall, Ted, they kind of went with what we predicted on the past shows, you know?
Yeah, there were some surprises. What we're going to do is we're going to go down each position group, and we'll talk about it. If there's any surprises there, any surprise cuts, guys they kept that you didn't think they would, we'll hit it then. So I guess the best place to start is the one position where there was the most intrigue heading into training camp. That would be quarterback. No, wait a minute. My bad. There was no intrigue there at all. It was pretty much Kirk Cousins, Nick Mullins. The only question really would be if Jaron Hall made the roster, and he did. So right now, Cousins, Mullins, Hall, and Jordan Ta'amu, XFL legend, did not make the cut. Drew, any surprises there?
No, I wanted to see what your guys' favorite Ta'amu moment was, since he's a Viking. I know it's hard to choose from.
He spun the clipboard in a manner that very few people can do on that last preseason game. I don't know if you saw that, but that was pretty impressive.
Absolutely.
I think they're all set at quarterback. They got a guy that could come in and win a game if Kirk isn't there. He's not your backup scrub like Sean
Mannion.
Yeah, like Sean, where you have no chance of winning. Jaron Hall just needs to sit there and soak it all in. So, that's kind of what we thought the room would be. I would have been bummed if Hall got cut. I'm glad he made the team because
Chris, I agree. Chris, I think if Hall had been cut, I don't think he would have made it through waivers to get back onto the practice squad. Do you?
No, I don't think he would have either. And, they did change the rule this year so you can have a third quarterback without having to have – I'm not sure exactly how to phrase it, but you can have a guy on the as your third quarterback, like an emergency guy, and not have to activate him on game day, but you can bring him in case the other two guys get hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically to prevent what happened to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game where they literally didn't have a dude that could throw a forward pass for about 3 quarters. So, yeah, Hall making the roster makes sense because he can just sit there and not really have to do much. You don't have to worry about moving him up and down to the practice squad or anything like that. So, no, I think that's a pretty solid decision.
Okay. So, yeah, quarterback was fairly anticlimactic. Hall made the roster. I kind of expected he would. I didn't really see him getting cut, especially, and I thought he had a very good performance in that third preseason game, all things considered, especially when he was playing with guys that were as close to the starting group as he'll get unless he actually has to go in this year.
I wonder what Kevin O'Connell really thinks about him in the future with Hall. I wonder if he believes in him. And what do you guys think? You going to draft another quarterback next year? Or?
Right now, I'm going to say no. Although, I don't know if you're keeping up with events in New England. The New England Patriots currently only have one quarterback on the roster. They cut Malik Cunningham and Bailey Zappi, so they've got like Mac Jones and nobody else. So I don't know.
That's where Hall would have went if you cut him.
Yeah, probably. I think he does. He's their guy. He was scouted, picked, and is now going to be developed by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell and their staff. So, no, I think they like the guy. I like what they're doing with him. They got him a lot of action in preseason, and now he gets to sit behind a really good quarterback and a really good backup quarterback and learn the nuances of being a professional NFL QB.
I still have faith in him. How about you, Chris?
I do think that next year the Vikings are going to end up drafting a quarterback high, just because, as much as Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell might like Jaron Hall, they're going to want a guy that they think can take the franchise forward. And I know Drew hates using this term, but be the guy for the next 10 years or whatever, just to be the franchise guy. Because I know they like Jaron Hall, but he's already like 25 years old because the BYU thing, they have to go on the sabbatical for a couple years, so they're a little older when they get to the NFL. But I still think that this is probably the last year of the Kirk Cousins era, and as a result, the Vikings are going to draft a quarterback high next year. So he could probably still be a quality backup, but I don't know if the Vikings see him as the guy going forward.
Jaron Hall and Christian Darrisaw are two guys you can plug in and forget about for an entire decade.
You know what, guy? You know what? That was good back in the 70s when the great Terry Tausch was playing. But honestly, in modern day football, why do they say? Does any guy stay 10 years anymore?
Very rarely. No, you're right. But I mean,
it's
just that they can have a good career there, and that's 6 or 7 years. I think a quarterback could be longer. I think a quarterback legit could be 10 years, but we'll see. Todd
McShay said. What's his name? Khalil is going to be here for 10 years.
Yeah. Yes, he did. All right. So quarterback. Moving on to running back. This was kind of Jason Aaron says we'll trade for Kyler Murray next offseason. Well, here, I hope if that's the case, then this will be a bottle of cyanide, and I'll just chug that baby on down.
I did not want that guy.
We're going to have to put a sign out in front of U.S. Bank Stadium that says you must be this tall to play quarterback for the Vikings.
For Christ's sake. I eat bigger burritos than Kyler Murray. Come on.
All right. Running back. Kind of surprised the Vikings have 3 running backs and 1 fullback on the roster. Alexander Madison, Kane Wangmu, Ty Chandler. Fullback, of course, is C.J. Ham. Kind of a surprise cut. As one of the surprises I saw today was Dwayne McBride, the rookie 7th rounder out of UAB, I believe it was. Abram Smith and Aaron Dykes were 2 other guys in the running back room that were cut today. Drew. Surprised that McBride got cut.
Well, I need to go back on the tape about 10 shows ago and say he's going to be starting by week 10. I don't think that's going to happen now. So Drew had a bit of a hit and a miss on that one. I tell you guys, I don't know if you've seen the college tape on him. If you go watch it for 10 minutes, your first thing you're going to say is that guy did not run like that preseason. I'm amazed at the difference in he looked slow. He looked indecisive. He couldn't break contact when the first guy got him, and that's everything he did in college football. So I am a little surprised they didn't try to stick with him more. He will get picked up by somebody. He was 2nd in the nation in college football with rushing rushing yardage last year. You know, this makes it really weird. The top 3 guys in college football for rushing yards last year aren't on an NFL roster now.
Really?
Brad Roberts, Brad Roberts from Air Force, McBride, and then the Mo Ibrahim guy. He got so much for taking the top rushers and moving them on. I don't know. Somebody's going to pick him up. Do you think? Did he get a fair shot in preseason?
I mean, there were
Chris,
a couple
before
games.
that question, you go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Chris. Answer that.
Well, there were a couple of games where I think Ty Chandler got just about all the carries. I know they're obviously they were pretty fixated on him being the number 2 back. I would have liked to have seen McBride get a few more opportunities. I don't know if he'll make it through the practice squad or not. He might not, but if he does, I would expect him to be back on the main roster here before too much longer, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he's a practice squad guy, Drew. Unlike you, I do think he will make it through waivers. 7th round running backs generally are not.
Yeah, he was
a whole lot.
I think he will get picked up, but
okay.
We'll have an inside bet between us there. I mean, that guy looked like Billy Sims in college, Ted. He did. That guy was crazy all over the place. So,
and he looked like Billy Ray Cyrus in preseason.
Billy Ray Smith. No, you're right. I mean, he didn't look very good. He looked tentative and like worried about something all the time. I don't know. I think I'd like to see him go to the practice squad and not get picked up by somebody else, but that seems like a guy that the Steelers love, those Dwayne McBride type of players.
Chris, you mentioned this when we were kind of doing our little chat before the show about Kene Wang. What you think? You think he's going to go on IR?
I think so, because the way the NFL rules work now is that if you want to have the ability to bring a guy back from injured reserve during the season, he's got to make the 53 first. And so I think that's why, I know Wangwu didn't play at all the preseason, but I think they obviously want to have the ability to bring him back. So they've got him on the roster for now, but I'm guessing probably tomorrow he goes on injured reserve, misses the first few games. And, one of those running backs that the Vikings had with them in camp during preseason, whether it's McBride or Smith or whoever it is, gets signed to the practice squad and then immediately gets bumped up to the active roster to take Wangwu's place. So
what's wrong with him? What's wrong with Wang Chung?
I don't know. He practiced early on in camp, and then nobody saw him. I don't think anybody's ever disclosed what kind of injury he's dealing with or anything. But yeah, he didn't play at all in the preseason and wasn't practicing or anything like that. And he had a couple of practices, so they couldn't put him on the PUP list or anything like that. So yeah, just kind of had to wait to finalize the 53 and then put him on IR and bring him back later on and replace him with someone else for now.
Yeah, if McBride doesn't make it through waivers, if they put Wangwu on IR and McBride doesn't make it through waivers, a couple guys out there. Melvin Gordon, longtime NFL veterans out there. Trey Sermon played for San Francisco, Ohio State legend in the Big Ten championship game a few years ago. And
we don't want him.
Playoffs is out there, and none of these guys would be impact signings. I think Sermon is a guy that would fit more into the running back by committee approach the Vikings are going to be going with this year. But so I think the running back room is not settled yet. Keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
Wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, rumors are they're trying to get a new deal done with him before the week 1 game against Tampa Bay.
Oh, so he didn't get waived, right?
No, but if they don't, they'll probably cut him. If they can't get a new deal done, they'll probably cut him. We're done. We're done with this guy.
That's a sweet shirt, Ted Glover.
Yeah, thanks. And the other wide receivers that are on the list, KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, I hardly even knew her, Brandon Powell, and Jalen Rieger. There were rumors hitting the internet today about the Vikings putting out feelers or getting offers for Jalen Rieger. So the Vikings end up right now with 6 wide receivers. Right now, they end up getting rid of both Lucky and Tristan Jackson, who I thought was kind of a surprise cut. Tristan Jackson was. Jacob Copeland, Thayer Thomas, Garrett Magg, and let's pour one out for Blake Prohl. For the first time in about 15 years, the Vikings will not have a slow, white, oft-injured wide receiver whose dad was a very good player in the NFL.
We could trade for one, though.
Rip Blake Prohl. Anyways, Chris, what are your thoughts on wide receivers? You going to get a deal done with JJ, and do you think they're done there? Are they going to trade Rieger and maybe get a running back, or what are your thoughts?
I think they are going to get something done with Jefferson here. I mean, I don't know if there's a armored truck large enough to hold all the money the guy is going to come away with from this deal. He's going to completely reset the receiver market for, like a week until someone comes along and redoes their deal and gets more money than he does. But yeah, I like the wide receiver group. I mean, Osborne and Addison are going to be number 2 and 3 on the wide receiver depth chart. We'll see how they divide the snaps between those two guys. I think Brandon Powell is here to be the punt returner primarily. And I don't know if they do sign somebody. I don't know if Rieger is the guy who gets cut, or if they were actually getting offers for him. So he winds up getting traded. But yeah, the extra wide receiver, I think there's an extra wide receiver there somewhere, whoever it might be, is a spot that's going to open up or a spot that's going to be lost if the team signs somebody else.
I do. Hey, GMAX72, an OG friend of the show, says Dan Chisholm is available.
Oh.
So if we can't, if we're sad about Blake Prohl no longer being on the team, we can go get Dan Chisholm. Maybe Chad Beebe's around. I don't know.
Hey, G-Mac, as John McEnroe would say, you can't be serious. No, I like the wide receiver. The cut down list is exactly what I thought it was going to be. A wide receiver would be crazy not to want to come to Minnesota, because they're going to have a hell of an offense. So what do you get when you trade Rieger, Chris? Bag of shake weed, some potato salad. What do you get for him?
Not a hell of a lot. I mean, they're gonna, in order to wrap up the deal they made with Philadelphia last year, they're gonna have to send the Eagles a 5th rounder this year. It could be a 4th if he meets certain statistical whatever. I don't think he's going to meet those. So I don't think you got to worry about that. But if you can get that 5th round pick back for him, then that would be pretty ideal if you could shake that out somehow.
If Naylor keeps up with it, Ted, we're going to have the best wide receiver group in the country. I think.
I think so. It's a pretty good group right now. I really like Justin Jefferson, like KJ Osborne. Addison has been very impressive throughout the entire training camp. I agree with Chris. I think they're going to get a deal done. I think Jefferson is going to be the guy that sets the tone for the rest of these contract extensions. There's rumors about was TJ Hockenson doing a hold in, or was he actually really sick? I think once they figure out how much money they're going to have to give JJ, that's going to have the dominoes fall in terms of other contracts they have to do. It's going to fall in pretty quick order. I think that right after that, they'll get a deal done with Hockenson, and then other deals they have to get down the road. Yeah. But yeah, I really like this wide receiver. I'm kind of surprised. Not really surprised they kept 6. What I am surprised by keeping 6 receivers, I sort of thought they may only keep 3 tight ends, but they actually kept 4. Of course, the aforementioned TJ Hockenson, free agent signing, Josh Oliver, Johnny Muntz, and Nick Muse, who had a great preseason and training camp, made the roster. So I was pretty happy to see that. Drew, you dig in the tight end group, or do you think there's something going on there too?
Good job for Muse. He seemed like he was getting faded out. This is about it for him, and he ends up making the starting the final 53. I like the tight end group. I'm really excited to see what Oliver can do out there, because I hear a lot of talk about him, the blocking and the receiving, and how massive that guy is. And Munt's solid. So I like the 4 tight ends that we kept. Ted?
Hot take from Rob Nelson. He says Hockenson plays on his current contract this year. Vince Los Benuso, I believe it's pronounced. Hey, you guys are cool. That's awesome. Okay. You guys.
Thanks, man.
He's talking about you two. I'm a dork, but whatever. Chris, you mentioned it earlier when we were just kind of talking about the initial impressions of the roster. Keeping 4 tight ends seems weird in a way, because the Vikings were doing a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets last year. You mentioned that this might mean they start going back to a lot of 2 tight end sets, which, okay, I mean, if you got a guy like Hockenson, and if Josh Oliver's as good as advertised, maybe it'll work out. But I was kind of digging the sort of wide open passing game the Vikings were doing last year with the different wide receivers.
No, I agree, and I do also agree with Drew. I think Josh Oliver is going to be a bigger part of this offense than a lot of folks might be thinking right now. Uh, the one thing I do kind of wonder about with the keeping four tight ends is, the issues Hawkinson's been dealing with in camp. I hope those aren't more serious than we've kind of been led to believe at this point. I know he had the ear infection at first. It was affecting his balance and his equilibrium, whatever. And then he was having some other kind of issue. I think it was a back issue or something like that. And with the way that guy looked in this offense last year, I hope that what he's dealing with isn't worse than they're letting on, where he's going to have to, where he could potentially wind up going on IR, missing a few games or something like that. But I don't know if that's the reason why they're keeping four tight ends. But like you said, Muse had a solid preseason, and those other guys were always going to make the roster. So it's a pretty solid group overall.
Okay. Purple and gold. We'll talk about offensive linemen in a minute. Dalton Risner. Purple and gold for days says Dalton Risner needs to be signed now. Go ahead, Drew. What do you got?
I was just going to ask both of you guys real quick, because I see questions coming in on the chat asking about it. The contract thing with Hawkinson. Can you guys inform me on where that thing stands without going off into the deep end about it? Just maybe give me a sense of the restructure for him or the contract extension or whatever. Is it on bad terms? Is it holdout thing, or what are we doing with him?
No, he wants a new deal. He's not in his fifth-year option right now. Am I correct with that, Chris? Or is this his fifth-year option?
I think he is. Let me double check and make sure when he got drafted. I'm pretty sure this is the final year of his rookie contract. Let me see here. Okay, yeah. So he was drafted in 2019. So 2019, 20. Yeah. So yeah, this is his fifth year. So this is his fifth year option year. The Lions picked up his fifth year option when he was with them. So when they traded him to the Vikings, that transferred over to the Vikings. They couldn't decide to turn it down or anything like that. So yeah, this is the last year of his rookie deal. So if they could start looking to do an extension with him, or they could try to franchise him next year. I don't know if that would potentially be cheaper than trying to do an extension with him. But you got to remember, once the Jefferson extension is going to get done, and after this season gets over, it's going to be Christian Darrisaw extension time too, because you can't talk about extensions with guys until after they finish the third year of their rookie deal. And they're going to want to keep Darrisaw around. So I would have to think Darrisaw would end up being a priority over Hawkinson. And if that's the case, then they might have to do something more creative with Hawkinson and not give him the kind of long-term extension right away that he might be looking for.
And Vike, I'll just mention, and this hit Twitter a couple days ago. The rumor is Hawkinson wants to reset the market, but what top tight end wouldn't say that? Doesn't mean that will have to happen for him to sign. I just think it's how much money they're going to have to give in commit cap space wise to Jefferson probably next year and the year after that before they figure out what they're going to do with Hawkinson. I think they're going to get a deal done. They're just going to have to figure out a way to move the money around so they're not going to be up against the cap, because look at what Adolfo Mensa has done in the last 2 years just to get the Vikings out of that cap situation they were in. Going into next year, even if the Vikings don't do a deal with Kirk Cousins and he walks and all that dead money accelerates to next year's cap, they're going to have over $60 million in cap space, which is a pretty good deal for what he inherited a couple years ago.
Yeah. Well, besides Kelsey, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Since Doc Proto was asking in the chat as what the franchise tag would be for Hawkinson, the franchise tag for tight ends this year was about $11.5 million. So I don't know if it'd get up to $15 million again by next year, but you'd probably be looking somewhere in the $12 or $13 million range to franchise Hawkinson for next season.
Yeah, I just think it's a matter of figuring out what they're going to get JJ and how he's going to do that, and then going from there. But that's just me. All right, hey, look, we got almost 100 people in the chat room right now. If you want to be eligible to win a prize, just make a comment if you haven't already. Ruby's writing all the names down. We're going to spin a digital wheel of destiny at the end to get a prize winner, get a prize out to our prize winner. So that's the skill positions for the most part. The offensive line is all we have left on the offensive side of the ball. Tackles are Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill, and Oli Udo, and it was yesterday or day before. The Vikings traded Vidarian Lowe to New England for a 6th-round pick. Did you guys like that move or not, Chris?
I kind of like Lowe when they drafted him out of Illinois, but I mean, if he was going to be stuck behind Udo, and Blake Brandel can play some tackle as well. We saw that last year when Darrisaw went out, even though they have him listed as a guard. I mean, they're essentially breaking even because they spent a 6th-round pick on him last year. So if you were going to get rid of him anyway, it's good that you got at least a little something in return for him. But I would have liked to have seen him get a real opportunity for the Vikings, but unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's going to happen now.
Drew?
I was a little surprised by it. I would have liked to have kept him. I mean, all you're doing now is, what do you go to the Patriots?
Yeah.
Now the Patriots don't have to spend any time on that developmental year. He's already had it with the Vikings, so he's ready to play now. So
yeah,
I probably would have kept him. Oh, I understand that draft him in the 6th round, you get a 6th-rounder, so it breaks even. Doesn't really break even until you see who you get. So I don't know. I probably would have kept him.
Couple comments on Udo. Big Higgs. Yeah, Big Higgs says Udo looked bad in preseason. He did, but he played guard. Remember last year when he played tackle, he was actually pretty good. He was their best backup tackle. So we'll see. Yeah, at least, when they trade Lowe, he was a 6th-round guy last year. Like Chris said, they at least broke even with him. So we'll see what happens. For guard, they've got Ezra Cleveland, Ed Ingram, Blake Brandel. And they also have Chris Reed, who was put on the non-football injury list, which is very similar to the PUP or IR. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe he can be active now for the first four weeks.
No, he misses the first 4 games of the year at least.
First 4 games of the year.
Yep.
And then centers Garrett Bradbury and Austin Schlottman, and nobody really cut there. So the Vikings are going into this season with the same offensive starting lineup, or at least on the line, that they had last year. Chris, does that bother you? A lot of people wanted some turnover there, but I think there's a lot to be said for continuity of all the offensive linemen returning.
No, absolutely. I mean, Ed Ingram, for as many growing pains as he had last year, did start to play significantly better towards the end of the season. But the interior line could be somewhere that they add somebody, whether it's signing Dalton Risner, as somebody mentioned before, or finding somebody that was part of the final cuts here, whatever it might be. I think that might be a position they look to add somebody at.
Drew, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the offensive line as we see it between the centers and the guards?
Ingram's going to be better this year. I'm not really worried about that. I am worried about the offensive line in general, especially the interior of it. More like, they can all play, but can you count on them? Ted says it's the same 5 guys coming back, right? Well, that means it's the same 5 guys that gave up league-leading hits on Kirk Cousins. I mean, it's just I'm still generally concerned. I think they need to make an upgrade somewhere, maybe at left guard. And I mean, can you count on the health of both our great all-star bookend tackles to play the whole season? I mean, we're going to need. I don't know. It's still a concern for me, but it's not as much as it was 3 years ago, Ted.
You and I have talked a lot about offensive line play in the offseason because we both had concerns about it. And one thing our buddy Dave Stefano has talked about it. Lou Krieger, I'm not sure if he's in here. I haven't seen him say hi yet.
First and Skull guy, Dave. Yeah.
Oh, he's doing the first and Skull account. All right.
He does, dude. That guy does everything. Yeah, he is everywhere. He's everywhere. He's like Mick Jagger and Bon Jovi combined.
David Copperfield of the Vikings blog. He's everywhere.
He is, isn't he?
But it takes it. You have to give at least 2 years for an offensive lineman you draft, maybe even 3. I agree with you. I think Ingram will be better. We'll see. He kind of struggled a little bit in the first preseason game when he played, but he wasn't playing next to Bradbury nor Brian O'Neill. I'm going to be a little bit patient with this and see how it goes. Of course, if Kirk gets blasted in week 1, then I'm going to be out on all of them. I'm going to want them all fired. But that's because I'm a fan and I can do that. Anyway, so
our side note, Ted, our friend of the show, Brad Cecil, did get cut today. He got released. He's available. Wouldn't that be a storybook thing for us? He'd come back on the show as a Viking. That would be cool.
Yeah, Drew's talking about. We interviewed Brad Cecil, University of Central Florida.
Central Florida.
Yes.
Yeah. Last year, while he was still a junior, great interview, great guy. Didn't make the final. He was signed by the Lions in the offseason as a undrafted free agent. Got cut today. So yeah, if they signed Brad Cecil, that'd be pretty sweet. But that's neither here nor there right now.
Now Lions have no backup center, so that whatever.
But yeah, other than Vidarian Lowe, the Vikings are going in with essentially the exact same group of guys they had last year.
It seems thin, Chris. Is we going to get more guys in it? I mean,
I think there's a move coming there, Chris. I don't know about you.
I think so too. I'm not sure who it's going to be, like I said, but there's got to be another backup on the interior coming somewhere. Because, like I said, I think Brandel is more of a backup tackle than a guard, and they're going to need one more person on the interior, whether it's another center or a guard or a guy who can do both, or whatever the case may be.
Okay. So that's offense. Moving along to defense. On the defensive line, the Vikings kept 5 defensive linemen. They kept Dean Lowry, who was signed as a free agent in the offseason, Harrison Phillips, Kyrus Tonga, Jonathan Bullard, and rookie 4th-round pick Jaquelin Roy. They cut, kind of a little bit of a surprise, maybe Russ Blacklock, Asezi Odomeo, TJ Smith, Calvin Avery, and Sheldon Day. Drew, do you like the defensive line?
Yes, I do. I'm kind of surprised Sheldon Day didn't make it. I mean, he's 7 years in? I know he's getting to be a little long in the tooth. I think that guy's been in the league a while, but I thought he played well in the preseason, guys. He was all over the place.
Yeah, but you look at him, and then you got a guy like Roy. They just drafted as a rookie. I think he looked pretty good from everything I read. I think they like his upside better.
Yeah.
I'm still really concerned about the defensive line, Chris. I'm not sold on these guys at all, but that's just me.
Well, who are the starters? Give me the 4 starters, both of you guys, because I have no idea.
Well, I think it's only going to be 3. I think there's about 3, 4. Okay. I'm gonna go with Lowry, Phillips, and Tonga.
Yeah, they'd be my 3 starters too. I'd put I think Tonga probably plays the nose in a 3-4, and with Lowry and Phillips more on the outside. The one I was a little surprised by is Odomewo. I thought he played really well toward the end of last season in the opportunities he was getting. But, like you said, they must like Roy a little bit more. I'd be surprised if Odomewo wasn't back on the practice squad. But, I was a little surprised by him being let go at this point. But I don't know who they would have cut to keep him there unless they were going to potentially cut Bullard to keep Odomewo on the roster.
Yeah, I think they made the right call here. I think they kept, of all those guys, I think they kept the right 5.
Ted,
I just still think it's kind of thin on talent, to be honest with you.
Ted, Lowry, Phillips, and Bonga. You think that's going to work out? You think that seems really that I'm worried about that. It's not exactly star-studded in there.
One guy I really like. You were really high on McBride throughout the offseason. I really like Roy. I mean, he is a big kid.
Yes.
He's a big dude that could be like a true nose tackle. Rookie, 4th rounder, so, kind of tamper your expectations. But I think if they can develop him, he can be a solid player in this.
He might end up being the best of all of them.
Maybe we'll see. I think Phillips still is, but yeah, man, all I'm going to say is I hope Brian Flores has a lot of schemes to mask some of the weaknesses.
Well, in the 3-4, your interior guys, and I call them all interior with the 3-4 because the defensive ends, the way they line up, whether they're lining up in the gap or not, their job is to eat up all the blocks so the linebackers can make plays.
True.
In our linebackers, as much as I'm worried about the defensive line with the 3 down guys, I'm just as opposite and high on the linebacking unit, Ted. And they're the ones that are going to be making the plays. But if it all depends on if those big guys up front can take up some blockers. But we have good linebackers, which we're probably going to talk about next.
Yeah. We're going to move to the outside linebackers. They kept 5 of those guys: Marcus Davenport, Daniil Hunter, and DJ Wanham, Patrick Jones II, and Andre Carter II made made the final
Hooray.
53. But for as much as people were celebrating Andre Carter, they were just as disappointed in Luigi Villain getting cut and Benton Whitley. Chris, are you surprised that they picked? Because it seemed to me Davenport, Hunter, Wanham, and Jones were pretty much locks. It was going to be that one spot. Are you surprised they kept Carter over Villain here?
No, they made it pretty clear during the post-draft signing period that they were pretty high on Andre Carter with the guarantee that they gave him, and I think they were going to give him every opportunity to make the roster. He's obviously physically gifted. He needs to spend a little more time in the weight room, but other than that, he's got all the athletic ability and skills you could hope for. I don't know if he's going to be active on game day as part of the 53, but I think he's another one of those guys where if they would have let him go, there was really no chance that he was going to make it through waivers to the practice squad or anything like that. So I'm not terribly surprised that they kept him now.
That's kind of where I am with the whole thing. I think they kept Carter because they were afraid they couldn't get him through waivers. Drew, are you surprised they kept Carter over Villain, and do you like that outside linebacker group?
I'm more surprised. Is DJ Wanham better than Villain? I don't know. I don't know if he is. I don't know.
That's a good question. I mean, the coaching staff seems to think so.
I would have
close. It's right there.
I probably would have made that. Would have been the way I looked at it. Wanham out and Luigi in, and then we have Luigi and Carter. But maybe the Wanham is a lot better player than I see. So,
well, do you like the other guys though? Do you like the whole?
Yes.
I think it's actually a pretty talented group, to be honest.
I do too. I really think that they're going to make a lot of plays and they're going to set up a lot of turnovers, Ted.
I'm kind of thinking that as well.
As long as with their inside guys.
All right. Well, then that moves to inside linebacker, another group of I think probably the linebacking cores. I think sort of head and shoulders the most talented defensive group on the Vikings. They kept 4 inside linebackers: Jordan Hicks, Brian Asamoah, Troy Dye, and Ivan Pace Jr., who was in line to start week 1.
Hell of a player.
Yeah. They cut Wilson Huber, Abraham Gustav Touton Beauplan the fourth, Troy Reeder, and Tanner Viejo. I would say Viejo is a minor surprise, Drew, but then when you look at the guys they kept, he really wasn't. Are you with me there? What do you think on this group?
I got a big switch over on this one. I love this group, and I think once the halfway point in the season rolls around, I think this is going to be our strongest group besides the wide receivers.
Okay.
The inside linebackers. I would have kept Troy Reeder over Troy Dye.
Would you really?
I think Reeder's a better football player than Troy Dye. They've been in the league, I think, about the same time. I think Reeder came in 2019. I'm not sure when. They've both been in relatively the same amount of time, but I just think he's a better football player all around than Troy Dye. That's just me. That's my opinion. So that's the only difference that's the only change I would have liked to have seen made.
Chris, are you down with that heresy, or do you agree with what the Vikings did?
I can agree with that. I mean, I've never been super enamored with Troy Dye. I know he's had his moments on special teams and whatnot, but I think I agree with Drew. Either Vallejo or Reeder would have been better able to contribute than Dye would. So what I'm wondering, we were all kind of high on Brian Asamoah after last season going into this season. So if Ivan Pace is set to start, and you got to assume that Jordan Hicks is your other starter,
right?
What do we do with Brian Asamoah?
It's a great question, Ted.
I think Asamoah is going to get a lot of playing time. And if you want a hot take, here it is. By the end of the season, the 2 inside linebackers starting for the Minnesota Vikings are going to be Pace and Asamoah. I think they're going with Jordan Hicks at the beginning of the season because he's a veteran, and he's a guy that has got more experience, obviously, than either. He's got more experience combined than Asamoah and Pace. But as the season goes on, you're going to start seeing Asamoah and Pace making plays. And at some point, they're going to start rotating those 2 on the field more and rotating Hicks off the field more, because nobody thought Hicks was going to be back this year. At the end of last year, they were like, he's just an okay guy, but he's just a guy. I think Asamoah and Pace have the potential to be the next great linebacking duo, like Scott Studwell and Matt Blair, like Jeff Seaman and Wally Hilgenberg. like Ed McDaniel and the guy Ed McDaniel played with, who was just as good, whose name I can't think of right now.
Chad
Anthony
Greenway
or
and
Eric
Hendrickson.
Kendricks. Yeah. But I think they're going to go with Hicks right now because they need him on the field for his experience more than anything else.
Pace is going to be one of those guys that 3 or 4 years from now, we're going to look back and ask ourselves, how the hell did that guy go undrafted for 7 rounds?
We're doing that now.
Wasn't it Kaylee Wong or
Kaylee Wong?
Or what was that other guy's name? The guy that
Ryan Smith, who played all of 2 years.
No. The guy that played, he lost the game for the Browns when he went. Dwayne Rudd.
I
think that was Dwayne Rudd, wasn't it?
Never saw a guy so happy as to make a tackle 25 yards downfield than I did Dwayne Rudd. Jesus, man. Hey, Brad Moran asked a good question. Will the guys cut for Carter make it to the practice squad? To me, the only guy that lost a spot because of Carter is Luigi Villain. I think they could get him back onto the practice squad, where I don't think they could Andre Carter.
I think Villain makes it.
Yeah, good.
To the practice squad or to the practice squad, Chris?
Yeah, to the practice squad.
He had a great preseason. I want to say this about Ted is absolutely right. With the only reason Hicks is out there is you can't. Everybody's real gun shy about throwing 2 rookies out there. And I know Asamoah was a rookie last year, but he didn't really play. So he's kind of a rookie this year, Asamoah. You don't want to throw him and Pace out there at inside linebacker being the freshman guys. That's why Hicks is going to get the start. But Pace is one of those guys you can't keep him on the sidelines. You watch. He's always – and then the more he's in the game, the lesser you're going to see of Hicks, and it's just going to fade in. That's how it's going to fade in. Hicks will fade out. But Pace is a better football player than Hicks, I think.
Again, hey, don't forget, folks, if you want to be eligible to win a prize, make a comment in our live chat going on just off the side of our screen. We're going to spin a wheel here at the end of the show.
Hell yeah.
Pick a prize from our VikingsReport.com prize vault. So let's move on to cornerback. So the Vikings only kept 5 corners here, which I think is kind of weird, but then you look at they kept 87 safeties, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the guys currently on the roster at the cornerback position are Byron Murphy, Caleb Evans, Andrew Booth Jr., Mekhi Blackman, and Najee Thompson, the guy, the special team stud who everybody was rooting for. Falsely reported that he was cut earlier in the day.
Yeah.
But then they had to walk that back, and he's on the team. But one of the surprise cuts was Jawan Williams. Jalen Williams was also cut, but Jamison Houston, C.J. Colden, and Kalen Barnes were the other cuts. Chris, are you surprised they kept Jawan Williams or they kept Andrew Booth Jr. over a guy like Jawan Williams, for example?
I am not sure if I'm terribly surprised by it. I mean, I know Booth wasn't great this preseason, but, he's one of those guys that as a second-round pick, he's going to have a little bit more of a leash than some of the other guys. I know the Vikings dumped a bunch of third-round picks last year, but none of those guys were drafted by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell. I think Booth is going to get this chance, and we'll see how he manages it. But Williams was running with the ones early in camp, and now all of a sudden he's out of a job. So that's kind of surprising. But I'm not completely surprised that they kept Andrew Booth around just because they want to try to justify using a second-round pick on him and seeing if he can finally get it and stay on the field long enough to actually be effective.
Drew,
exactly right, man.
Yeah,
everything.
5 cornerbacks, man. And as our friend Nick Howard said, they really only have 4. Najee Thompson's kind of a special teams guy. That's probably the main reason they kept him.
I am completely happy with the group they kept, Ted.
You think that's enough? You don't think they need another guy?
Well, you always need another guy with injuries and everything. But I'm the Jawan Williams thing. I think that's something that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah doesn't want to talk about because they went out and got that guy to be a starter. They did, Chris. That was going to be a starting guy for them.
Yep.
And then he doesn't look any better than Cindy Williams out there. I mean, he didn't look good in the preseason, and they expected a lot more out of that. That's a curveball to the staff and to the coach because they expected him. That's why I expected him to be a starter.
I believe that. Okay.
So I don't know. You don't bring a guy in, with all the fanfare they brought him in with, and then he's all of a sudden he's not there anymore. But Everything Chris said, I'm in agreement with. It's going to be a tested group because of the youth and everything. But Blackman is going to be a shutdown corner in this league, and he's going to be ours. So,
Rob Nelson says injury concerns in the cornerback room. Those are very legitimate concerns. Murphy missed a bunch of games last year. Caleb Evans has been hurt. Andrew Booth has been hurt more than he's been healthy. Blackman's a rookie. And then Vichologist said, I bet they make a move for a cornerback in the next couple of days. And then a wise man once said from our internet affiliate, Purple Pain Forums, that's purplepainforums.com. Go check them out. Says you can never have too many cornerbacks, and that is absolutely correct.
You know, he said that, Ted.
That'd be Plato. Plato, when he was writing the Iliad.
You got it. Socrates, Ted Glover, Socrates, Ted Bud Grant.
Nobody said, "Hey, Socrates, the hemlock is poison." Anyways, so dumb. What is our problem? Why are we there? Anyways, no. Yeah, Drew, I 100% agree with you. That's a great point. I think the Joanne Williams getting released was not expected at all. And the Vikings are having a scramble. The one name cornerback I saw out there, and he's probably not going to be the guy, is Bradley Roby. The Saints cut him today. There's several guys out there that they can look at, but I would think T. Kubler, who said you can find a cornerback at 7-Eleven. That was a cover 2 corner. That wasn't just any corner. That was a cover 2 corner. We no longer play the cover 2 here in Minnesota.
Maybe we should call Carl Lee. Man, he was fantastic.
He was
fantastic.
I wonder what Xavier Rhodes is doing. He probably heard his name called and pulled his hand. I don't know. Anyways,
I think he's doing 3 to 5, Ted.
But I definitely think there's a move coming here. I don't know what it is, and I'll tell you this. I'll tell you right now. The only reason Andrew Booth Jr. has a job is because he was drafted in the 2nd round last year. If he was a 4th or 5th round guy, he wouldn't be on the team right now.
That is correct. We're going to give you the flashing light for that.
Vichologist says Bashad Breeland is still available. I don't believe he is. I've been talking about doing 3 to 5. Didn't he? Didn't he just want to follow the law pretty significantly?
He just had something weird happen to him. I can't remember what all. It was a really weird story. Yeah, he was terrible anyway.
He was terrible.
All right. So moving on to safety. So you might want to pack a lunch because the Minnesota Vikings have 107 safeties. It's going to take me about 45 minutes to read off all the names.
Jeez.
Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, Lewis Seen, Jay Ward, and Theo. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, are all on the team, and they cut Jake Gervais.
Oh, wait. They just signed Kurt Knopf, too. He's on the team again.
Hey, Kurt, I got a story about Kurt Knopf. I'll tell you when we're off camera.
You hung out with Kurt Knopf?
I did, yeah.
Oh, man.
I think Willie Alford is on the roster again, too, somehow. That's a little...
Willie Knopf, that Knopf guy, that guy was a partier.
Kyrie's A-Bear is still around. I don't know. Anyways.
In defense of that guy, he went on to become a legend in the CFL, but that's here.
Who?
Kyrie's A-Bear.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, I thought you meant Bobby A-Bear. Remember him?
Yeah. Not as a safety.
All right. Yeah. So, look, 6 safeties. I didn't see this. I didn't see the Vikings sticking with 6 safeties. I thought maybe they might go to 5 when we saw how they were using Josh Metellus during training camp and then in the preseason. But I didn't really see them keeping 6. Did you, Chris?
No, and I wonder how many of those guys can flex in at corner as well. I think Jay Ward has the ability to kind of do both, but I'm not sure. I don't think anybody saw him keeping all 6 safeties, but I'm not sure which one of them you could justify cutting at this point. I mean, Theo Jackson was pretty solid this preseason. Ward was solid. See who else we got? Bynum has been starting for a while. Metellus is one of your top special teamers. Seen wasn't going anywhere, obviously, and then you got Harrison Smith, that dude's in for a renaissance this year under Brian Flores. I think he's going to be back to harassing quarterbacks and just being all. He might have lost a little bit of a step, but I think he's gonna bounce back in a big way from what we saw last year.
What are your thoughts on the safeties? Do they keep too many? Just keep, or are they like Goldilocks? They kept just the right amount.
it's just the right amount. Here's what I love about the safety group. You got all the positional groups on the Vikings. There's like one or two good guys, and then one or two good guys, and it kind of fades out. You got one or two good players at different positions. Look at this, man. Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, Lewis Seen, Jay Ward, and Theo Jackson. They're all good players. They're all better than average players. We are stacked at safety. I'm glad they kept all 6. I wasn't expecting it, but that's a talent pool right there. And at some point, they're either going to play or you might use them to as a trade to get more draft picks next year. But every one of those guys are good. Jay Ward is a fantastic player.
Yeah, Vicologist says another couple. He's had good comments all night. They won't keep 6, in my opinion. They will make a move and drop one of those guys. If they had kept 5 corners, like legit corners, and not counting Najee Thompson, if they'd have kept like Jawan Williams or whatever, I think I would be inclined to agree with you that they would keep 6 dudes at the safety position. I just even with Harrison Smith, Bynum, and Metellus on the field, assuming Metellus is their main guy in the big nickel, I don't see the coverage ability in Seen, Ward, or even Jackson that would warrant them keeping 6 and not making a move at corner. That's just me.
I agree. I see it. First off, you're not going to keep 6 corners and be in 2 safety sets all game. So that's pretty much
true. Yeah,
we're not going to be in 2. We're going to run 3 safeties for the majority. That's how I see it. That's a giveaway to that. But some of these guys, Cam Bynum played a little corner in college, along with safety. Josh Metellus played a little corner for my Wolverines, along with safety. Lewis Seen was a rover back for Georgia. He was everywhere. I think they're keeping all these guys, Chris and Ted, just to run them all in different positions. That's why I think they're keeping 6.
Chris, is Drew onto something here, or is he smoking the wacky ganja weed again?
I mean, that they all have different skill sets. I mean, Brian Flores wants to be aggressive and wants to match up players to the best of their abilities. So you might see a lot of dudes rotating in and out at the safety spot. You never know. But I don't think Drew is smoking the wacky tobacco or anything like that.
Never smoked it. I don't know.
No. But yeah, it's
allegedly.
I did not inhale. But yeah. No, I think they're going to work those guys in somehow, but they might wind up trying to sneak a Theo Jackson back onto the practice squad if they make a move for another legitimate cornerback. I think of the 6, I think he's the one who has the most to worry about as far as remaining on the active roster.
Exactly right, and Ted, you're right. That might be the guy that goes out so we can get another corner.
Yeah. Ray Hoagland says they all like to hit. The safeties are not as big a hitter as the Llama. 12 son of the Llama flowing robes. Striking. Cinderella story. Let me say this.
Yeah. We have the smartest fans that watch this show that comment and stuff.
We do.
They're all smart. And I want to give a shout out to everybody that sits in and gives their 2 cents on the chat. I learn a lot from them. So I appreciate the followers who follow Vikings Report. Thank you.
My only question is, if they're so smart, why the hell are they watching us? Because we're a bunch of dopes. we're the tricycle of ridiculousness. I don't know. Whatever.
I will say, getting back to the Breland thing, talking about the 3 to 5 earlier, my worthless opinion here in the chat, Breland was caught in a stolen car with 5 pounds of weed and multiple guns with the serial numbers filed off, so he's going to be busy for a while. So there's a reason he's available.
Oh, I was just guessing.
Yeah.
And what about that guy we wanted to keep that came in, number 20, Duke Shelley? Is he available? Get him in here.
I think the Raiders kept him.
Yeah, I think.
They did?
I think he made the Raiders final.
I like Duke Shelley. He'd be a good guy to come back to the squad.
Yeah. So, anyways, I wonder, if Girls with Guns was playing in Breland's car when he got busted. Little Tommy Shaw action. I don't know. Whatever. We're so dumb. Ruby, are you there? Are you ready to spin the wheel? We got to wrap this up.
It was probably Mr. Brownstone by Guns N' Roses was probably playing.
Yeah. used to do a little, but a little wouldn't do it.
You know where you are? You're in Chris Gates' jungle, baby. Okay, there's the wheel of Tootses.
Ruby, how are you tonight?
Hello, I'm doing good.
All right.
Good.
Ignore us, spin the wheel, and we need to get the hell out of here.
All right, here we go.
Tootses is hot. Okay. I like the sound effect.
Trooper.
Trooper 88.
Okay.
All right, Trooper 88, congratulations. Get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. She'll send you a link to the prize vault. You'll pick your prize. Drew and Ruby will mail it out to you in a couple days.
Ted, real quick on the prizes. If you don't contact Tootses, email. If you don't do it, she's not going to chase you down.
Yeah.
So you people that win prizes got to get a hold of her. Or, I mean, she might leave you one message, but she's a busy lady. She's not going to hunt people down for prizes. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Drew, Chris, and I are sick of people not taking responsibility for their actions in this day and age. So, by God, have a little responsibility and contact Ruby. And get off my lawn while you're at it. No, seriously, yeah.
Did I sound like get off the lawn guy? That's what I didn't want to do. I did not want to be.
Yeah.
That's good. No, that was good. Again, get Trooper 88. Congratulations. Get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report, Drew and Ted at gmail.com. While Drew does a tequila shot, we're quickly losing control. So let's get the last couple thoughts out of everybody, and we'll get out of here for tonight. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, kind of interesting construction on the initial 53 here. That there's going to be a couple changes coming over the next couple of days, I'm sure. And once Monday comes around, we'll have a better idea what's going on and who's going to US Bank Stadium to face the Buccaneers on September 10th. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on the transactions and see what kind of movement happens with this roster. But it's definitely interesting the way things are constructed right now.
Yeah, I'd agree. Drew, what about you?
The cut down to the 53, Ted and Chris, is pretty much exactly how I thought it would go. Like one or two names, but overall, we are here, guys. We are at football season. Next week, the big board comes back. We got Tampa Bay, but it's all over with now. The offseason's done. Now that we get to the final 53, this is the group, guys, we're going to take into the season and hopefully get to the Super Bowl with. I'm just excited football's back, Ted. College football this weekend, Vikings next week, and NFL. It's great. It's a great time to be alive, Ted. I don't know who said it, but somebody did.
Yeah, it is. I agree. It's kind of a few questions in a couple spots, but the roster is going to fluctuate a little bit before it finally settles down before week one. Again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Remember, again, no studio show this week. This is all you're getting this week from us. We will be back next week for our regular studio show. Like Drew said, we'll have the big board. And then we are now going to our regular season schedule of airing at 10 a.m. Central Time for our regular season show. So for Chris, for Drew, for Ruby, who makes this show complete, the only thing that makes this show possible is Ruby doing that voodoo that she does behind the scenes. I'm Ted. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you later.